Hey everybody, it's Melissa Ramos from Sexy Food Therapy, and I am really excited because today I have a special interview with Kim Anami from Bodacious Life Coaching. So thank you so much, Kim, for doing this Skype consult, or not Skype consult, but Skype interview because I know you're crazy busy.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to be chatting with you too.
Yeah, so, I wanted to be able to pick your brain a little bit today just because I know, one of the things is I actually came across your video, the Cure Fukme video.
Yes, it's a cause that's very dear to my heart. I really do hope that people can spread the message about this awful, awful disease that's out there. It afflicts so many people. It's heartbreaking, Melissa. I'm so glad that you're on board with this cause to help.
Honestly, I think it's the way that you went about it is awesome because, I even speak to my patients, and some people have this tendency to think that sexy food therapy is all about sex, whereas it's actually about how to feel sexy from the inside out by eating whole, amazing foods. But I find actually food kind of a word that is synonymous because sex can be food for the soul. Creativity can be food for the soul. So seeing what you're doing is also awesome because sex is such an integral and vital part of good health. So
absolutely, I agree.
So help us understand a little bit, for those of people out there that don't really know what it is that you do. What do you help people do exactly? So who is Kim Anami? What do you stand for? And what is your objective with your business?
Right. Well, I've got a background in training in a whole variety of different modalities, from psychology, philosophy, like the arts, acting even, and a huge amount of time that I've spent studying different elements of personal growth and wellness. And so for me, that's been a huge part of my life, is how do people change and how do they grow? How do we become the best possible versions of who we are? And so, for me, that's also been studying health and nutrition and food and exercise and meditation and all of these different things, and then bringing them together. And for me, one of those most instrumental pieces along the way on my journey has been sex. Okay. That sex has actually been this tool that I can help, that I can actually, when I have these powerful sexual encounters, that I become the more pure version of myself, that I can let go of my inhibition and actually cure issues that are going on in my life. It becomes this tool for self-realization.
Okay.
And, in our culture, we don't really see sex that way. There's a huge focus on sex in so many ways, in almost a more superficial way, but the understanding of the depth and the power of what a high-value sexual relationship can really bring to you, that's what I spend a lot of time educating people about.
And I find, just to stop you there for a second, I find it's really interesting that you're saying that there's this sort of issue that people have around sex, or even just in our society in general. It's sort of looked upon as a very taboo type of thing. My parents are, Brazilian descent. At least my father's. My mother just grew up there. But there's sort of this passion, and I don't think that it's the same. And even in Italy, when I went to Italy, it's just totally different. Versus here, there's this massive taboo and almost sort of shame that's wrapped around it. That sometimes people are, a little bit, they don't want to talk about it in certain ways. So I think it's great what you do.
Thank you. And I'm very comfortable talking about it and disarming talking about it and playful talking about it. And I think that tends to bring people in who maybe didn't know where they could talk about it or how they could talk about it. And so they hear the way that I talk about sex and describe what's possible. And, it's like it wakes up this dormant piece of themselves. Oh, I intuitively felt like sex was natural and it was healthy and it was normal. And yet, we've all grown up with all sorts of conditioning and internalized oppression around sex. And I think until people actually stop to examine the beliefs and ideas that they may have just picked up, have been conditioned with, then it's really hard to break through to that other side and reclaim your own natural state. I believe that everybody is very naturally passionate and connected to their sexual energy. Every single person has that capacity. Every single woman the capacity to be orgasmic and multi-orgasmic. It's just a matter of unlocking the keys that need opening.
So help me understand a little bit about your views on the relationship between women, food, and sex.
I think women have adapted more repression around sexuality. There's been more stuff just thrown at women. And so women, I think, are less in touch with their sexuality. They're less encouraged to be in touch with their sexuality. And so because of that, they suppress that energy, or they think, oh, I'm just not that sexual.
Yeah.
And because, though, it's so natural to have those needs filled, that when you're having a really connected, love-infused, powerful sexual relationship, that feeds you on such a deep, deep level. Totally. There's nothing like that experience of being truly seen and cherished in your most raw, vulnerable state. And when we're not getting that, I think we're starving. We're secretly starving. We're hungry. We're craving that level of connection. And so,
that was the whole thing that we're talking about when it came to, like, you know, food is synonymous, that it can really, you know, feed our souls in many ways. So same idea as what you're talking about.
Right, and that when people have that, they feel nourished, and I think there's any kind of craving, whether it's an imbalance with food or alcohol or drugs or anything, it starts to diminish. It spontaneously evaporates because you're being fed on such a deep level through these experiences of connecting with other people. And I think in a larger sense, our society is much more disconnected. We have so many nuclear family units rather than these extended family cultures and societies and villages that we used to have. Yeah. So that sense of being disconnected is so clear. And I think when, especially for women, when they aren't being fed in that much deeper way, one of the most natural places they go to is to food, to overeat or have some kind of imbalanced relationship with food. And what I've seen over and over again in my work is that when women, say, have struggled for years with body image and eating and dieting and stuff, once they get this piece coming together in their lives, in their sexual relationship, when they really claim their sexuality, the weight just drops off. They're not even trying anymore, and it falls off, which really shows me that, you know, I totally believe in the value of good diet and good health and good exercise and making excellent choices. At the same time, there's all this other weight and baggage that people carry that you can dissolve, especially in the context of your intimate relationship.
Well, I think that's incredible. And there was something that you were saying before about gourmet sex versus junk food sex, which I love, sort of the play on words. But I think that that's really interesting, and I want to get your idea about that and what you mean by that, because I think that sex is a really powerful force, and that it can be used really to really fuel us. But, you know, on the flip side of things, it can be quite destructive as well, depending on what your relationship is. So what exactly is your definition between that gourmet versus junk food sex?
Right. So the way that I see the difference is that, you know, sometimes people get a mixed message. Like, I'll say, yes, everyone should be having lots of sex and as much sex as possible, with the caveat that it ought to be gourmet sex, right? It's that the choices that we're making are nourishing to us. And so what I think comprises gourmet sex is having a mix of emotional connectedness and physical surrender. So you have a sense that you're able to you're emotionally open. You can open, feel safe, feel vulnerable, allow yourself to surrender. That's a key ingredient to gourmet sex. And then the other aspect is physically. You feel at ease in your body. You feel a sense of sexual, like you can let go of your inhibitions and really be open that way. When you have those two components together, that's the kind of sex that can radically change your life. On the other hand, if someone's just having more casual sex, they're more disconnected emotionally, they're physically disconnected. And I have no judgment about that at all, because there's already so much judgment in our culture about sex. I don't have any judgment about it.
Yep.
Context of creating a more nourishing encounter, it's better if it's gourmet sex. You know,
can somebody actually have, you know, gourmet sex if it's a casual relationship?
I think in a limited capacity, like if you're able to physically really open yourself up and learn how you can let go and surrender, and maybe you have some kind of emotional connection with the partner, I think the sex could be good. I don't think it could be necessarily life-changing. I think you need that other element of really being able to trust and open that typically comes with time, you know, and comes with a sense of safety.
Okay. And so what would you suggest for women out there who, you know, they're not with somebody, they're not with a partner? I know, especially having patients who've come in and they do definitely tell me about their sex life. It's not, you know, my area of expertise. Certainly something that I would refer to you on that capacity. But I do have women who come to me and say, you know, like I'll have this casual sex and afterwards I just feel so depleted afterwards. Like they feel almost that reverse sort of thing. So how about what happens for those women who haven't found that person that they can have gourmet sex with? Like, what do you have any suggestions of how to find that?
Well, I mean, there's two ways I would go about it. I think if somebody's single, and I think that's quite common, is that people have these casual encounters and they feel depleted. It's like eating sugar, right?
Yeah.
You get this temporary, or junk food, you get this temporary fix, and then you actually get a crash.
Totally.
Afterwards, your blood sugar plummets, you feel crappier, you feel depressed, and that's often the outcome of casual sex. And so, you know, I'm a big fan of masturbation, self-pleasure, self-love, and then I created a video series where I talk about the best way to masturbate, the best way to actually harvest your high-quality sexual energy and rejuvenate yourself with that energy so that you're getting the most out of those self-love encounters. You actually come out of that feeling more creative, more in tune with yourself, revitalized. That's what you should feel like if you're having sex, even if it's with yourself. And if you're not feeling that way, you're doing it wrong. That's pretty much the bottom line. Sex should not be depleting. It should not be tiring. It should not make you want to pass out. That's wrong, in my opinion. It's just not being approached in the right way.
So then I guess there's quite a few men, I mean, and maybe I'm generalizing here, but I suppose there's quite a few men out there because that idea of like, you know, you have sex with a man, then they roll over and they're like, okay, going to bed. So they're kind of having sex wrong, is what we're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. So if you look at sexual energy as this really potent life force energy, right? That's the energy that literally creates new life. And for most people, when they're having sex, they build, they move towards orgasm, they get to this peak, and then they just eject all of this high-quality energy out of themselves. And it's exaggerated in men because and that's why they roll over and they go to sleep. They've depleted themselves to such a degree that they pass out. That's how bad it is, the energy loss. So what they can do instead, and this applies to men and women, it's more extreme in men. They lose a lot of energy when they ejaculate, is breathe. Literally just focusing on deep, steady, intense breathing throughout the entire sexual encounter. So many people, if not virtually everyone, will hold their breath, breathe really shallow, tighten up the body as they're having sex, and especially as they approach orgasm, and you totally curtail the flow of energy. I know that you're a Chinese medicine practitioner, so we look at energy meridians, right? Breath carries energy.
Absolutely.
Breath carries sexual energy. So if you're breathing throughout the encounter, you bring that energy back inside
yourself. You're flowing chi.
Exactly, exactly. And sexual chi is an even denser, thicker form of chi. They call it ji, J-I, in the Chinese terminology, right? Yeah. And it's more likely to get stuck, to be stagnant, if it's not properly recirculated in the body. And breath is one of the biggest tools to do that. So I have a video series where I explain how to do that. If you have a link to that, then people can check out that series.
Absolutely.
And I go through how to do that.
And I'm going to be including that to everybody here. You can see just right below our faces. It's going to be a link where you can access that. And I think it's great because you are offering this really cool free video series that I saw going on that I think is awesome. So, you know, this is great. It's a free incentive. And I think, you know, this whole series and this program that you're doing is incredible because you're essentially helping people become happier, more revitalized, both physically and emotionally, by helping them revitalize their sex life. And you talk something about like sort of this challenge where have sex every single day type challenge. Like I've heard this is sort of an exercise you give to people.
Yeah, I often say, like, to kick things off, set yourself a 30-day sex challenge. And so every single day for the next 30 days, whether you're single or you're in a relationship, you're either going to be having sex with yourself or sex with your partner for 30 days consecutively. And then basically you prove it to yourself. The way that you feel will be so different. Like, without exception, every couple who's come to me after doing that challenge tells me that their relationship has been quantum leaped into another dimension. Wow. Problems? What problems? With sex like this, who has problems? Like all these things that get worked out because they have this amazing flow with their sexual energy together. So the emotional stuff, the physical chores, and sort of, you know, detritus of their life gets handled so much more easily because their sexual energy is empowering that flow. It's basically infused into every other part of their life. And so it's like the proof is in the pudding. Okay, if you don't believe me, have sex for 30 days and see how you feel after that. And no one's ever come back to me and said, that was
I can't do it. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, do you get resistance when you ask people this? Like, hey, you know, go out and have sex for 30 days. Like, do you get resistance from people?
Sometimes. I mean, there's some people that are they'll just jump right in, right? It's all about commitment.
Yeah.
You know, you really do commit to something, then you see the results, then you see the up-leveling. So the resistance can be all sorts of things. It's like, wow, what really will happen after those 30 days, you know? I mean, sex is this great place to expose yourself and open up. If you're having sex every day, you probably, at some point, if you've been hiding or been holding back, it's going to come out, right? Whatever's in the space, whatever's in the bed between you is going to come out. And so there can be a fear of that risk of really what's going to happen. Or even like, you know, how good can it be, right? Like, so yeah, there can definitely be resistance there, but it's just at some point you just have to lock it in, right?
Okay.
And commit to doing it. And that's when you see the most powerful results.
Wonderful. So just to wrap up and everything and to wrap up and talk a little bit about your program, Cure Fukme, can you help us understand what are people, what can they expect to receive in terms of like, what do they get out of it? Do they get like an ebook? Do they get like a teleseminar? Like what is it that they can get once they actually buy into this amazing program you have going on?
Right. So How to Be a Well-Fucked Woman is an 8-week salon.
I love it.
Well, that's the essence of what we really want, isn't it?
And I love that you're so empowered that you can just come right out and say it. Because for generally, like, you know, for women to speak in that way, sometimes they're categorized as certain ways. And I'm just like, it's such an empowering place to be, is to own that power. You know what I mean? And I just absolutely, like, I love it. So sorry, I interrupted you, but I had to say that.
Well, thank you. And I think if you're ready, that terminology, like, it hits you, right? Is, you know, it kind of wakes you up. Like, yeah, actually, that's what I would like to be like that. Or if someone really doesn't want to be like that, they're not quite ready yet, you know? So it's a good barometer that way. But I created this online course. I call them salons because when I do workshops in person with people, I'll facilitate, but I'm creating this conversation. You know, there's this space for people to share and ask questions and to open up, and that's very cathartic. So the 8-week course is a virtual salon. So there's 6 modules of video series. Like I've recorded these high-quality videos that people will get for 6 weeks. And then there's weekly Q&A calls, so a live teleseminar call where people can call in. I'm giving people home play and exercises to do every week. And so they go back, they practice, they do their homework, and then they come back and I can help them troubleshoot. You know, if anything comes up for them, I'm there to help them along the way. Part of the process is also I'm teaching them how to do vaginal weightlifting. And so do you know what the world record is for vaginal weightlifting?
No, I have no clue.
Guess.
I don't even have a concept. Like, is it like the weight of a gerbil, or is it like how?
We're talking furniture here, Melissa.
Seriously?
Yes.
Like what, an ottoman?
Yeah, an ottoman, like 31 pounds.
Oh my God.
Pounds is the Guinness World Record for vaginal weightlifting. So this is what vaginas are supposed to do. That's how strong and aware and articulate vaginas are supposed to be. They're not supposed to fall out. They're not supposed to like be peeing their pants all the time. Like that's because we're so disconnected from our sexuality.
Someone lifted an ottoman with their vagina.
Yeah, Tatiana Koznikova. She's the Guinness World Record holder. She's this woman from Russia, and she decided to really work it. So, yeah, that's obviously, you know, a very like noble goal. But any woman can get more power, strength, sentience in their vagina. They'll have better orgasms. Overall, it just helps to integrate your sexuality. So when you asked as a single person, you know, or instead of say having casual sex, you can use this practice. I use a jade egg. It's like a stone egg that you put into the vagina, and then eventually you put weight on it so that it has more resistance. You don't build muscle without resistance. That's why Kegels don't work. For most, I've rarely met a woman who says, oh, Kegels were great for me. They're not, because it's like weight training without having a weight. You wouldn't just wave your arm around like this if you wanted to build your bicep. You pick up a dumbbell, right? Yeah. So it's the same principle. And so that helps to really like increase the magnetic power of the uterus, of the womb, of the vagina as this vessel of creation, right? And manifestation. Symbolically, that's what it's meant to be on an energetic level.
Yeah.
So that practice helps a lot with that. We talk about everything from self-pleasuring 101, how to do it yourself, 50 Shades of Grey, how to actually create your own so many women tell me about that book, that they love it, but it's like they don't know how to do it. You know, it's like, how do you actually create a dynamic like that in your relationship that's healthy and safe and sexy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's great because one of the things definitely that you said was about sexual energy and creativity are as one. And I've written several blog posts about that, saying that, you know, it is something that I always give my patients homework that, like, here is your creative homework for the day. Sex is really important. If you're in a relationship, I have women who complain to me like, oh, my husband, he's not, you know, romantic enough, or like our sex life has sort of like plummeted a bit. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's also a mirror that maybe it's time for you to also step it up as well. Because chances are, if you give it to him, he's probably going to reciprocate. So it can go both ways. And I think that it is really important to establish that. And I love what you're doing, because this is, you know, empowering women on a completely different level. And I really urge everybody out there to check out, you know, your site, which is curefukme.com, and the link will be underneath, just in case you guys are like, how do I spell that? But amazing video. Kim's got you have an incredible way to be able to express sexuality in women, so that we don't feel inhibited or feel embarrassed or shamed about it, but rather feeling empowered and confident and sexy. So thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for spreading the Cure Fukme message, Melissa.
All right, Kim, thank you so much, and take care.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.